All right. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining this session on Modernizing Information Security. My name is Yasser Rasheed. I'm the Global Director of Enterprise Endpoint and Security Products at Intel, and super excited to be here with you today, and hopefully you'll enjoy this session. And we'll try to leave some time at the end for Q&A as well, but feel free to enter your questions in the chat session in the meantime. All right, so I guess we all know that the trend is a lot of changes in the modern workplace. The way we work is changing. How we work, where we work, how we connect, and more importantly, there are a lot of other players or actors taking advantage of the working from remote, working from the cloud. And these cyber attackers are waiting for the opportunity to target the information that they want to steal or they want to monetize one way or the other. And of course, top of mind for everyone, how is COVID-19 even impacting that in such a way that it's disrupting the way we work and making everyone pretty much work from home or work in locations in the house where there isn't much internet connection. And cyber attackers are also trying to take advantage of that. And there is a COVID-19 malware floating around, trying to spoof information and scam people. So with that, we want to look at the different challenges that IT organizations face today, and we know that I'm going to build it out very quick. There are 4 different challenges that any IT organization and of course information security organizations try to balance on a day in and day out basis. Improving productivity, that's the ultimate goal, right? To let employees work and get work done. Reduce downtime, improve security, and control costs. And these are sometimes well aligned and sometimes actually opposite to each other. Especially in the security space, when we talk about controlling costs today, companies are spending more and more money in that space, and the problem doesn't seem to go away. In fact, it's getting worse and worse. So wanted to take a look at Intel's strategy in this case, and how Intel is offering capabilities for you to address these challenges. And with that, I wanted to take a couple minutes to introduce Intel vPro platform. Many of you may already know about Intel vPro platform. It's a platform in its entirety, really covering all the different business priorities, and is built for business from the get-go. vPro has been in the market since 2006, and we've been focusing on 4 pillars: performance, business class performance, really productivity, but also application responsiveness, connectivity options, everything you need essentially to have your employees be productive. A built-in, more secure foundation that allows you to protect against attacks, detect those attacks in the right time and in the right manner, and recover when something goes wrong. PC fleet stability. This stability is such an important aspect because when you purchase PCs, you want to make sure that the platform is reliable and those global SKUs, if you work for a global company, are available at a global level for the right amount of time. Last but not least, you want to be able to manage those devices in a manner that allows you to manage them, whether they are inside the firewall, outside the firewall, at home, at a coffee shop, wherever they are. So vPro as a platform is built for business, delivering these 4 pillars. What I want to focus on for the remaining time that we have here today is this built-in, more secure foundation, and how Intel has been evolving that in such a way that gives you what you need for your business. All right, so but before we dive into all of this detail, a little bit of a snapshot of how the security landscape is shifting. And there are 3 major trends that we see today. On the left, you see the attacks. Many of you are experts in this space, so I don't need to spend a lot of time, but I want to highlight a few things. We know that 90% of the incidents result from exploits in software, so we need to do something in the hardware space to mitigate those exploits in software. Attacks are on the rise. The frequency, the magnitude is just astounding, and in the bad way. And the cost of a breach. In fact, a couple of years ago, we used to put a number to it and say the average cost of a breach is X or Y. These days, it's very hard to put a number to it. They are skyrocketing, especially when we talk about the middle column, the increased regulation. Regulations in Europe, for example, with GDPR, that is now becoming more of a a global foundation for standards, and of course a lot of regulatory restrictions and regulations for vertical markets. We know that the on the right side you see the budgets increasing and the spend increasing at a 15% compound annual growth rate. So you sum it all up, the spend is going up. We're spending more and more money on security, yet the problem is not going away. In fact, it's getting bigger and bigger and more costly to our businesses. And there is a lot of tightening on the regulation side that we have to adjust for. So we did a lot of research, of course, with our partners in the industry on what are the top priorities for any CIO and CISO. And what you see on the left is pretty much universally, it's these four top priorities: threat detection, threat protection, threat prevention, managing threats and reducing the risk from threats. Second, and these are not in a particular priority order, these are the four things that everybody worries about pretty much day in and day out. Application and data protection. We need to protect our data. We need to protect our apps as a conduit to the data. Identity protection, that's the entry to the castle, if you will. So we need to be using more infrastructure that takes advantage of multi-factor authentication, sensor, biometrics, and so on. But more importantly, how are you managing the credentials and how are you storing them appropriately in every platform? Last but not least, the ability to recover when something goes wrong. And this is becoming a when it happens, not if it happens. At Intel, we convert all of this to essentially a package that we call Intel Hardware Shield that gives you the protection below the OS with a built-in security foundation and capabilities that the operating system and applications can take advantage of to deliver on the four priorities on the left. We also have other technologies that I listed at the bottom: Intel Transparent Supply Chain and Intel Active Management Technology. I'll cover these as time permits today. So very important to kind of slow down here. The priorities on the left are universally recognized. I would like to hear your feedback, maybe through the chat session, on whether you have other priorities that you're working on. And we've been focusing on these four priorities in our technology and capabilities. Intel Hardware Shield is how we're packaging this in our vPro platforms going forward. So I'm going to dive a little deeper now into each one of these technologies on the right. First, Intel hardware-based security. What we focus on to offer is, everything for us starts at the hardware level. When you boot that system, it's that root of trust that has to be well established. And we invest in an enormous amount of money on the technology that make our PCs secure from the get-go as soon as you start the system. And so we protect again below the OS. Even before the OS boots, BIOS attacks could take place. And there is actually an increase in the BIOS attacks now that we're seeing in the industry. I know it's not like what you may see day in and day out today, but it's the emerging threats. And at Intel, we want to be ahead of the curve and protect even against those future attacks. So below the OS, protecting the BIOS and the firmware, and at the silicon level, we invest in making sure that the silicon is the foundation for that root of trust. The second package, or a second list of technologies, is really about the application and data protection. We focus on providing the right performance optimization and platform infrastructure. Think of it as the virtualization capabilities, the key management, the key protection, the acceleration of encryption. All of this is rooted in the hardware that allows software techniques to take advantage of it and deliver the best experience for you in the data protection and application protection space. The last bucket is really about detecting advanced threats. and detecting those threats in such a way that it doesn't burden the PC from a utilization and CPU performance perspective. So we'll talk about these three buckets. The first one that I want to cover is the protection below the OS as part of Intel Hardware Shield. We provide the protection from, let's take the example of someone using a buggy driver to inject code in the BIOS, like an SMM driver. And using that to put the OS on hold, go into system management mode, and pretty much steal keys at a time when the OS cannot even, it's not even working. It's not functioning. It's on hold by design of the system. The BIOS is managing the system in that place. Today, memory access is wide open in SMM. So we established a hardware technique to limit the memory visibility to the code that is trying to access memory. In other words, if a malware is injected in the BIOS, it can only see its own code space. The second bucket is about making sure that the OS is booting on top of clean hardware, and especially when you have a virtualization-based security, like in Windows 10 today, and it relies on it for security purposes. We want to make sure that that VMM is loading on top of the bare hardware, as opposed to someone slipping another VMM in between in a blue pill attack fashion. So we use trusted execution technology from Intel, which offers a dynamic root of trust to verify and validate that the OS is loading and the VMM is loading on the right hardware, clean hardware. And of course, we have to notify the OS about all of these protections taking place in the BIOS. So the last piece is about the OS visibility into how the BIOS is being protected. So these technologies now come built in with any vPro platform, 10th gen and beyond, which is out in market. We just launched, in fact, a few weeks back. We're excited about it. And when you buy vPro, you get these technologies built in and ready for you to be used. All right, now let's move on to advanced threat protection. This is an area where, it's becoming harder and harder to track the signatures for every piece of malware that shows up on a daily basis. And when you look at the number of threats, number of malware that are discovered on a daily basis, it ranges from, it used to be like one new malware every 4 seconds. Now it's, last I heard last year, was 5 every second. And it's just growing exponentially. So there is no way to track all the signatures, and zero-day attacks are happening every day. We need new techniques. Burdening the CPU with signature detection is also not working. So if, for example, someone sends me an email with a malware embedded in a PDF file, and I click on that PDF, malware is now in memory. So unless I'm scanning memory on a regular basis, I cannot really detect it. And by the time that malware, let's say if it's a ransomware attack, by the time it spreads and starts functioning and encrypting my files, let's say at some point in time, I close my laptop and stores information on disk, and then I scan the disk, it's too late at that point. No one really uses CPU-based memory scanning because it's too taxing for the CPU. So what we've done is a simple and creative way to offload the scanning to the graphics engine. The graphics engine is, unless you're doing heavy-duty gaming at work, is usually severely underutilized. And we have a very powerful graphics engine in our processors today. So we can offload scanning for memory, and also some advanced behavioral techniques going forward in time to detect those advanced threats. So ransomware attacks can be stopped early on if you do memory scanning, for example. There is no guarantee that every ransomware attack will be stopped, but we can protect against the majority of them if we can detect those early on and stop it in its tracks. So very powerful technique, part of Intel Hardware Shield, again, available on vPro platforms when you purchase vPro. For that to work, by the way, you need to buy the software, security software that works with it. Out in the market today, Microsoft Defender is using it, and we're working with a number of other ISVs to integrate it as well. And you can expect that this type of announcements coming soon. So just want to check time here. I think we're doing well. I want to spend a few minutes on recovery with Intel Active Management Technology. Today, actually, let's step back. Even before recovery, there are, we know that you have to continuously patch and update your systems when there is a new driver or when there is a known vulnerability in the operating system or in an application. Or more recently, Intel has been investing heavily into verifying and discovering some of the vulnerabilities in our firmware, for example, and in our drivers. And we've been publishing these on a regular basis with updates pretty much on a regular cadence now. We call it the Intel Platform Update. Almost quarterly, we have an update now, 3 to 4 updates a year. And these are cumulative updates. So you want to be able to update the BIOS, the firmware, the drivers, the apps, the operating system. And you want to apply these updates in a fashion that doesn't disrupt users when they are working. Users don't always work at 2 a.m. How about if you can remotely schedule these updates at 2 a.m. in the morning, and if anything goes wrong, you can quickly dial into that PC with the right credentials, of course, and you troubleshoot it, and you see everything, even the BIOS screen with KVM, keyboard, video, and mouse, all done remotely from a completely remote location. That is the type of troubleshooting and updates and really device health that you can get with active management technology. And if anything goes wrong, you can re-image, you can really do everything you need as if you're physically in front of that device, but do it remotely, all the way up to re-imaging the entire platform over the network. So it's a super powerful capability, especially when we think about what COVID-19 is doing to all of us working from home. If my IT organization doesn't have the ability to help me remotely and something goes wrong in my device, I would have to take my PC, go to work, and schedule a meeting with a technician that may or may not be allowed to go to work, and risk in the meantime, some of the challenges with COVID-19. So the Intel Active Management Technology allows us to offer these services remotely in a seamless fashion. Inside the firewall, outside the firewall, we have now the technology with the Intel Endpoint Management Assistant, or EMA for short, to do all of this over the cloud as well. So very powerful, and I want to address that. Last technology that I want to cover very quick before we wrap up is what we call Intel Transparent Supply Chain. Now, when you buy PCs, you spec everything and you say, yeah, these are the components that I want. You place the order, and then you get a box, in your office or at home if you're using advanced imaging techniques, and now you use it. How do you know that nothing has been changed in transit? If only the paranoid survives, but this is now a major issue in the supply chain. We need transparency, traceability at the component level, and we can offer that with the vPro platforms with this technology. Essentially, we take a manifest, a digital fingerprint, if you will, of the platform configuration at manufacturing time. We push that to our cloud, and when you get the PC, you run the same piece of software, creates the same manifest and compares the signatures, of course, and compares the same components. And if anything changed, you can flag it and say, okay, you know what? Hey, the firmware has changed, or someone inserted a different TPM, or change the SSD drive or whatnot. So you can get a peace of mind here that if everything is green and nothing has changed, that you have the same system that you ordered. Very powerful technology. So with all of these, I want to wrap it up with a call to action. Our security strategy recommendation for you is the following. First, start with the right device selection. Buy Intel vPro devices with built-in security capabilities. When you buy vPro, you know that you get the right infrastructure built in, ready to use, at no additional cost. You already paid for the best in class here from Intel with vPro built for business from the get-go. Second, apply modern remote management techniques to be able to use Intel Active Management Technology to perform the out-of-band patch management and updates on a regular basis. This is super important from a hygiene perspective. and we highly encourage you to test it out and let us know how we could help. We have technical sales specialists who can help you, perform a proof of concept and a pilot and integrate it in your environment. And by the way, we've been doing this remotely as well, which is super powerful. The third one is to implement additional security services and capabilities, such as advanced threat protection with Intel Hardware Shield threat detection technology and transparent supply chain. Transparent supply chain is available from some of the OEMs today. Lenovo is pretty much across the board on their SKUs, and the other OEMs are coming on board soon as well. The rest of the technologies are available on all OEMs, anyone with vPro capabilities today. So with that, I think we have 8 minutes for Q&A. Excuse me. Are we getting any questions? All right. So the first question is, are these technologies affordable? And the answer is actually, we believe vPro platforms are cost effective, and we have total cost of ownership estimators that you could utilize. And we've done studies ourselves. We've worked with many companies. We have case studies to share on how it saves money. And we also have a great study by Forrester that we could share. So please contact your local Intel rep, and we can give you an update on the cost effectiveness and how vPro can help you save money from a total cost of ownership perspective.
We've got another question coming in from the environment that we're using today.
Okay.
So John Sullivan is asking, what tools must we equip our IT department with to take advantage of AMT, available as a service to?
So if you could repeat what I missed one word.
Of course, yeah, sorry. So what tools must we equip our IT department with to take advantage of AMT?
Very good. So for AMT, you need a PKI infrastructure. You need essentially the database, the Active Directory, and the same IT infrastructure that most large enterprises have today. And then we give you a remote console tool, essentially called the Intel Endpoint Management Assistant, Intel EMA. We also have plugins for if you're using Microsoft Endpoint Management Suite or SCCM and system configuration tools. We have plugins for other providers as well. So it's easy to integrate into your existing ones, or we could offer you the Intel Management Console or the Intel EMA tool. And if you contact your local Intel rep, we can help you out with how to perform a POC. All right, I see another question here. How can the Intel patching service be provided to organizations? Does the COS need to sign separate contract with OEM or Intel? What about home computers? Great question. So, first of all, the technology is available on Intel vPro devices from all OEMs. So I'm assuming the question is about Intel Active Management technology. It's available from all OEMs: HP, Dell, Lenovo, Fujitsu, Asus, Acer, you name it, as long as they have a vPro SKU. Outside the technology itself built in, we offer tools that you can download from our website, and we can help you with the links to those. In fact, we may have information in the booth, and we can offer that on email as well. So if you contact your local Intel rep, we can help you out. There is no additional cost to AMT or the tools once you buy vPro. You're already entitled to it. Okay. Previous presenter, Denis, discussed that common threats resulted a lot from setup issues completed by users. Can you advise of common trends of these issues? That's a great question, Tim. So, you know, the easiest way to approach this is users. It depends on of course how technology savvy they are. Simple configuration, password issues. Essentially, if you're trying to update a BIOS and it reboots the system and goes into that black screen, some users remove the AC cord. The list goes on and on and on. And the easiest way to think about it that we recommend is you apply your patches and the updates at a time when the user is not even working on the PCs. So it's easy to use, for example, Intel AMT, set up an alarm clock at, like, let's say 2 a.m., wakes up the system even if it was dormant. As long as it's connected to AC and it's on a network that is accessible, you can reach out to that device, wake it up, patch it, update it. If anything goes wrong, you can see the screen, even the BIOS screens, and make sure that it booted well. You gracefully shut it down, and by the time the user wakes up in the morning, whether it's 6 a.m. or 8 a.m., they have a system that is up and running. So avoiding user interactions is the goal here for us. All right. Farwa Jaffrey is asking, how can AI potentially create an impact on modernization of cybersecurity? And is there any work from Intel on creating something best of both worlds? This is a great, great question. Thank you, Farwa. Intel is investing heavily in the AI space. In terms of threat detection and prevention, we have our threat detection technology part of Intel Hardware Shield. We're using, in fact, we're doing a lot of tech readiness nowadays on advanced AI techniques with heuristics to capture some of the advanced threats and attacks that you cannot really capture with signature verification. So a lot of behavioral analysis. We can analyze a lot of the software running on top of the hardware, and that's because we're actually operating below the OS. And we can combine these with heuristics that the security experts can provide us, and we can flag when something goes wrong. So AI plays an immense role in advancing the security profile going forward. A lot of work that is not yet announced and that we will announce at the right time with our partners in the industry as well. Okay. Can a completely virtual business thrive in today's environment while hitting the criteria of InfoSec? What about if and when the next pandemic hits? You got to be ready. And this is our recommendation for everyone. You know, buy the right devices. We continuously invest in bringing the best to you through our vPro platforms, especially in the security space. Be ready. Be ready with the remote management tools, and you know, implement the additional services that give you the peace of mind from a transparent supply chain perspective, advanced threat protection, and a lot more to come with the AI as we just discussed. So that's the right way to think about it from our perspective, and would love to hear your feedback if you believe something else needs to be done here. We're here for you. Last question here, how to balance training of users versus attempting to make install practices user-proof? Simple answer, I don't think you can stop training users. And in fact, raising awareness is so important. The most important part of it is to make them aware of the tools that are being applied. Of course, regular hygiene. Hey, we're gonna update your system every month, for example, on those days, and here's what we discovered, or here is what we want you to know. And of course, there are many other techniques on password strength and data classification and so on. By the way, Intel IT performs many of these, and we have some of our own tips and tricks, if you will, that we would be happy to share with you as well. All right, I hope I covered all the questions. Are there any other questions that I didn't cover? I know we're 1 minute over. Okay. So with that, thank you for attending today. I really appreciate it. Would love to hear your feedback. And please feel free to contact me directly or contact your Intel rep. We're here to help you address your business needs. Thank you.